In this final class for MintsApp 2.0, I want to teach you about some of the social media aspects of this software. Now, in a lot of ways, the social media parts of MintsApp are really more intended to be kind of a supplementary marketing program for your site. You can do very obvious, straightforward things such as run a question or a poll and then direct people along to follow you on Facebook or to join a Facebook group or something like that to increase your social media following. However, it can also be used from kind of the other perspective in that you can gear these things to be completely non-advertising based and so appealing to people or potentially even shocking to people to the point where they're inclined to want to share it. Whenever you can find a topic that there is a very strong dividing line on that topic to where people very strongly feel one way or the other in almost all cases for that particular topic, those things are much more likely to be heavily talked about and even shared on social media websites. This is the kind of stuff that goes viral. So if you happen to have some kind of an idea such as that works along with your niche, you can use this tactic to simply help to bring more people into your website, to try to get something shared a lot on social media sites to then help bring in more traffic to you. Now, one of the initial ways that this can be done with any poll that you create is through this little share tab that is up in the corner. Here, when you hover over it, people can simply share this on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. This, though, is really just the most basic part of the social media aspect of MintsApp. This is something that will get included for you on all of your polls. So you do have that potential to have something shared by others on various social media outlets. However, if that is your focus for a particular poll or a rating, there is more that you can do. You can set up the post action to actually be centered on sharing, where people are then presented with this screen that asks them to share it with their friends, and it gives a number of different outlets that they can do it. It even has a Pinterest and I believe that's Tumblr. I'm not super familiar with that one though. This is something that would really only be used in a case where social media sharing was your only goal with this particular engagement campaign. If your goal is to try to help generate more traffic into your website, this could be the way to go about doing it. However, if you're not interested in that, if you're looking for more direct results, then you may not want to put the time and effort into setting up this type of thing. Because you can't do this with just everything. People have to have a reason to share it. If they don't have that reason to want to share something, then they're simply not going to. It either needs to be great content, some really good poll, or beyond those things, some kind of controversial type of subject. Just to give you a wild example, gun control. People usually feel one way very strongly or another about guns. However, that's not really a great situation. It used to work on Facebook a couple years ago. You could do stuff like that. There was even a guy that specifically made a living off of stirring up issues about gun control on Facebook and using affiliate marketing to do it. Nowadays, Facebook doesn't want stuff that in your face. You would have to tone it down a little from something as out there as gun control. But as long as you look at your niche, if you feel like there is some kind of a controversial subject or a very fine dividing line on your subject, then you could potentially turn that into something where people would actually want to share it on social media accounts. Just as an example, think about things that are popular in the media in terms of controversial kinds of situations. Right now, obviously, in the USA, there's political stuff going on. Donald Trump causing a really big stir. But you also have normal, everyday kinds of situations. Interactions between businesses and customers, could be businesses and governments. Let's say you had a site about smartphones or a site about even the iPhone or the iPad or the iPod, perhaps. Apple recently was being targeted by the government to provide a backdoor into their iPhones. So you could simply present a poll to people to find out how do they feel about that. Do they think that the government should have open access to everyone's electronics, to all of their personal information like that? You know, that's a really important ongoing discussion in technology and security and governments, and it's going to continue to be so for years into the future. So if you happen to be in some kind of a niche relating to that, you could try to take that kind of an approach. People would be more inclined to want to comment on something like that, and again, be more inclined to actually want to share something like that. So as far as setting up all of this stuff within MintsApp, the main part is really going to be taking place in your post vote, where you have your post vote action set to request to share, and then you have all these different options available for you. You can choose whether or not to show an image. You can upload your own image if you wanted to do something different than what was there. You can change the text if you want to say something a lot more specific having to do with your question or the cause that you were trying to get people stirred up about relating to your niche. And then you can even select which of these social networks you want to allow people. Let's say maybe you don't do anything on a couple of these networks, or you feel like the people there, it's just not really going to apply to them or interest them as much. Maybe you just want to center the focus on Twitter, Google+, and Facebook. You can narrow down your choices and just show those. I do think putting comments on these polls, the ones that are designed to encourage social engagement, can be very beneficial, because people can be inclined to share it based on somebody's comments that they will actually end up seeing on your poll. So other people can then help to drive additional social sharing and engagement for you as a result of stuff like that. So while social media may not be the #1 reason that you use MintsApp for, it can be a good way to supplement the traffic that you get to your website, and it could even be good to just simply use for some experimentational types of purposes. If you run a Facebook fan page or a Facebook group, you could certainly, that is, obviously connected to your website or your niche, you could certainly drive traffic to that to increase your followers. Also, when you go to embed one of these, you have your social media sharing options down below. So if you run either your personal Facebook page, if you're connected, have friends with other people that might be interested in this topic, or if you have been building some kind of a following on your Facebook fan page or on a Facebook group, you could certainly share through those different outlets to increase the actual engagement and exposure. Through that method, then people could directly share this on Facebook. You can actually have this right here showing up on Facebook for people to engage with that way. You can even do something like using your direct page to send traffic to off of Facebook. This could kind of be like a landing page, and you encourage people to either reshare it, or then they could go and visit your actual website. So you have a lot of different ways you could approach the social media sharing aspect of MintsApp 2.0. You don't have to use all of them. In fact, you could decide to use none of them. That's perfectly quite all right. You could do more than enough using just the Amazon product promo and the lead generation strategies from this series. But if social media is something that you are into, or you do feel like it's going to be a good fit for your niche, there are certain topics that people just don't want to talk about, and there are other topics that they will be foaming at the mouth to talk about. So you need to think about, where does your website really fall in line with those types of topics? Which one is it? Would people really be interested in talking about it? I can tell you from personal experience, if it's not that interesting of a topic, don't bother with social media. It is not worth the effort. But if you are into it, and if you feel like your topic is in one of the industries that would get a lot of social media attention, then it could certainly be a good supplementary campaign to help drive additional traffic to your website, mostly off of creating some kind of controversial poll that would stir up a lot of attention and ultimately bring a lot of people back to your website in the end.